Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good meeting.
I'm exhausted.
You ready to go?
I'm done. I'm spent.
But all the old business, we have recommendations for. So.
Right.
Do you want to make motions on these?
Sure. Yeah.
I think if we give the report and then make a motion, it just kind of gets it right out of the gate. It doesn't stifle any debate,
I agree.
but it just makes it clear what we're talking about.
I agree.
Do you know if Chris is coming?
He's not coming.
Who's not coming?
Coker's not coming.
Oh, that's all right.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
You know, it's funny with them is
Oh, too busy.
because they practice labor.
Is the campaign rolling?
Oh, yeah, well,
It's just part of it. Young.
it's more other stuff. The campaign hasn't really taken so much
So I've
time.
been on both sides. I've been
Grandkids are firing here and there.
Oh, yeah.
on opposite sides, like where our
My
clients
wife's out of
are in
town for
conflict.
like the next 3 weeks. And
They've
I
had
had to
always
keep all the laundry going and the floors clean.
Yeah, you gotta do that. She'll notice
And when
when you
you've
do
got
I
that.
have to say they want to see
They,
it.
the oldest girls in these guys turned 17 today, so we had unannounced party at Grandpa's house.
Oh.
Said noise is okay, breaking things is not.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, 17, that's a big milestone.
Yeah.
Is he a senior in high school or is he already?
He's a junior,
Yeah.
but he's doing running starts, so he's up to all his classes over for the
Over
community
to college.
Yeah.
Nice. What does he want to do?
I don't think he's kind of floundering with a career
Decision, yeah.
choice
It's
decision.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what do you want to do with the rest of your life when you're,
Yeah.
16, 17,
Yeah.
So,
He's talked about doing engineering or something like that. I
well,
don't know if
there's
he'll-
lots of different types of engineering.
Yeah, there's tons of different. Yep.
There's an intro to engineering class at college.
He's very mechanically astute, so engineering would be
Good for
a
him.
fairly good field for him.
Oh, good.
But then he talks about, well, maybe I should just get a trade, like go to electrician school or something. It's up to you.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of good trades.
Come on in. Come on in. Bring your cap.
No, they go directly to the job, automotive and diesel tech and all those.
Well, I don't have the conference phone anymore. That got sent back to
Oh,
it was their property.
Program.
we need to buy a conference.
Oh, sorry. Put that in your technology. I was gonna say, I sent Arnell
Three of our daughters
replacement
did it,
for
and two
about
of them got their
$600.
AA.
It's the same. It's a newer version, the same one.
Yeah, it's
We would like
been a
that.
huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you order it?
I don't have a card, but I could definitely approach somebody who does.
Yeah, please buy that, because when you, I am out of power.
Authorizing that?
Yes,
I have really good friends in Lewiston, Idaho.
Can I email that to you? And
We've had
Go from there.
nothing but grandkids living with us for the last year and a half, it seems like, so she wanted to go have some her time.
Yeah, right.
you know,
Yeah, kind
the
of.
only thing I can, the only downside on that I can see is that I don't have
She's enjoying it.
make
Goes swimming every day.
You wrote up.
I can try, all I can do is try. I think I do, but.
Well,
Hey, yeah.
I'll read it.
Hey, Dan.
sit through the first meeting over here. But it slopes down.
It still has to go through some hoops. You have to, okay, well, it doesn't probably matter now because,
Because it won't.
We used
You can't go
stones
through
around
ARPs.
60 pounds and the hollow inside, you just fill it full.
okay, I need to find Chris Coker. Do you know our number? Oh, no, I have, that's right. I have to just call you.
Ecology
Sometimes
blocks.
it
Infrastructure for facility respond.
I have to call you. It is 7 o'clock.
100 block of South Sunset.
I'm gonna call the, hang on, please.
Yes. In fact, we're not even done with it. We got a cap.
Good evening.
Thank you, I'm gonna put you on, I've got you on speaker.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm gonna call the Montesano City Council meeting for September 28th to order. If you all stand with me and it's to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll call?
Councilman Wood?
Here.
Councilman Trimble?
Here.
Councilman Bryson?
Here.
Councilwoman Christabel?
Here.
Councilman Scaramuka?
Here.
Councilman Carl?
Here.
Councilman Cope?
Is there a motion?
Motion to excuse Councilman Cope.
Second.
It's delayed.
Forgive me, I lost track. Was there a motion and a second?
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now at approval of bills. Would the Finance Committee like to make a report?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Would the Finance Committee like to make a report?
The report is $101,392.24 is the total bills.
Does anyone have any questions or comment as to the bills? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are at approval of minutes. Councilman, is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
A second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Councilman Wood has provided us a copy of corrections to the 9/12/21 minutes. It is extensive, and it includes different members, so I understand now why you suggested that perhaps we should,
We could push these minutes off until the next meeting.
that might be wiser. Does
I
any,
tried to capture the nature of our discussion and also clarify the motion as well.
so the council's, so that's, I guess, part of the discussion. Does the council have any, does anybody wish to table it outside of Councilman Wood, or would you guys like to read it and move on from here? Well, Councilman Cope is not here to, he's quoted in this a few times.
Yeah, I went back and reviewed the recording, but I would prefer that people had time to verify themselves that that's an accurate reflection. I think it was a significant enough discussion that we ought to reflect that in the minutes.
Does anyone have any thoughts outside of Councilman Wood?
So, did I understand you correctly, that you're willing to table this until the next?
Yeah, I just think we should table the whole minutes until next meeting.
That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Anybody have any objection? So I guess I'll take that as a motion to table in a second, hearing no, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This is the first opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment at this time? I know that there is a delay within the closed captioning. If anyone would like to, and so if there is a public comment for later in the meeting, please feel free to share that, and we'll share that in the second public comment period. We are at committee reports. Have any committees met? I know that E911 met. Councilman Trimble, I believe you attended that meeting.
I was not there.
Oh,
We were not represented.
right. Does anyone else have any meetings?
Flood Authority met. There was just an update on the funding that had come through the Office of Chehalis Basin, which freed up the funds to the Flood Authority in order to do the projects. The biggest projects in our area are the pump stations in Aberdeen and Hoquiam. And I think we might be starting the process again for teeing up some small projects. And I think I've sent something to the mayor and to the public works director regarding that. So we may have opportunity there. We should be ready in case there are unspent funds, just like with the Council of Governments sometimes on the street funding we've been able to get.
All right, then at that point, we're going to go ahead and move on. We are at old business now and updating on ARP funds. Councilman Trimble?
It has been a lot of work, I can tell you that. But I think it rolls right into the next one, which is the fire department generator update. I've had some clarification on the lost revenue categories from MRSC and AWC, and along inside the interim final rule, and some pretty serious discussion back and forth with them and a few other entities. But it has come to where the Finance Committee believes that with their assistance, that we would be able to roll the lost revenue or portion of the ARPA funds into the general fund. So I'll quote from MRSC's email that basically says that they cannot find anywhere that states that funds must go back to the budget lines where the losses occurred. So that would make us, if we have a loss, then we have a loss, it goes to the general fund or wherever we decide for it to go. So from the Finance Committee, we would make a recommendation to allocate up to $150,000 for the fire department generator out of ARPA funds. And I would believe that would be my motion as well.
And I heard in the motion that we are going to send out for bids?
Go to bed for that, correct.
Okay, and so,
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Two questions. So are we able to roll the entire amount into lost revenue?
We can, because if you look at the lost revenue calculator that we used, we had a loss of $2.1 million.
Which is more than our 1.13.
Correct.
Over the 2
Over the 2 years, correct. The biggest thing was the state grants. It was where our hangup was because of the large sum of state grants between 19 and 20. And then you have to actually look out over 21, 22, and 23 as well, and calculate lost revenue out of those years moving forward as well.
So no big grants, and we're okay.
Yeah. I feel comfortable with the emails that have come back from AWC and from MRSC. that we're making the right decision. I can tell you it's taken a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out where to get the correct answer, and then when you get one answer that tells you no, and the next day you get an answer that tells you yes, you're kind of like, you just roll around pretty much. But that is where we could roll all the money into there, but a lot of the other things that we're wanting to do fall under categories of the actual ARPA monies.
Wouldn't it be better just to bring it all in untethered?
So,
I can't give you a definite answer to that, because everything else that we do want to do is related to it.
so I think the hesitation on this is that I think, first of all, thank you. I was CC'd on these emails, and there was a lot of work. And the Finance Committee, I appreciate all the input that you guys did on this as well. But I think the issue is that what Councilman Trimble is saying to you is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is everyone hesitatingly said, doesn't seem forbidden, and it looks all right. And so that's what we're hanging our hat on, and I think we've got it in writing to say that. But there are other things that we have suggested that is 100% yes. And so instead of putting it all in general fund, when we have things that are 100% yes, we'd like to specifically allocate it based on those categories, because there's no doubt on those categories, versus if we put it all in general fund, we're only at probably 90%. And so I think that's accurate. Is that right?
I think the mayor captured that well, and I think that the more we look into this, and I appreciate Councilman Trimble's work on this, because I know it was a lot of communication, and he brought us back a lot of good information. Generally, I think that the idea is that we use the money for its intended purpose, that we meet the spirit and intent of why we receive these funds. So I agree with the mayor that when we have areas that are specifically called out as some of those reasons, we should use them in that manner, just to make sure that it's very clear and clean how we decided to spend the money and where it went.
And we're really probably not going to actually physically, I mean, so we're going to go out to bid. We should hopefully get something by, I would assume, mid-October, ideally be able to have it to you guys for approval for the last meeting of October. But that still being said, I mean, I don't know if that's the perfect timeline, but that's the goal timeline. That still being said, I would say that we have a reporting responsibility if we spend $1 by the end of October. So we will probably not spend $1 until November 1st, regardless, because otherwise I'm not even sure how we do it. And so, and then we have like a 3 or 4 month reporting time frame. But we can do all the bids, you guys can approve everything, and then November 1st we can cut a check.
So when would we actually be going out to bid then?
I'm hoping within a week or so.
Megan.
5 days? Yeah. Oh, and before he says something about the bid, I was going to say that we had a really interesting conversation in management meeting about the nature of the scope. No, I don't have that.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you weren't necessarily.
Brett was telling me, and I don't remember.
Okay, well, I had an interesting conversation where,
More interesting to some than others, so tell me.
but I'm asking, and I think it's written up, that I've asked for bids on, I don't remember the kilowatts or how it's done, but we're gonna do an alternate bid. So one is the perfect one, and one is the one that may be less than perfect, but still does the job. And so we can see the price difference so that we'll bring them both to you.
Well, what do you mean
So the question was asked, does the generator have to be a Rolls-Royce version? Can we deal with a Chevy? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. And one generator would run everything in the entire, whether it's a light switch down to the toaster to the whatever. But another generator might run everything except for 10%. And so the real cost appears to be, according from my conversation, was about labor. and about how certain things were configured, whether we'd have to rewire everything or not rewire everything. But I think it doesn't cost us anything to get kind of two versions of the bid. And if it's a $30,000 or $40,000 difference, we'll bring it to you and you guys can decide whether to spend it or not.
I don't think that alternate will be too burdensome for the contractor either.
Yeah,
They'll put in the work of sizing it,
right.
and I think providing an alternate's a pretty common approach.
Yeah. I wasn't overly worried about it. I think that you guys still have the last say on which one you do.
I think we'll find that I expect that we're gonna find that sizing it to the larger capacity will be cost efficient, that we'll probably go that direction.
That's
So-
what Mr. Olden also said, but I think that it's worth citizens' monies to ask the question.
I thoroughly agree.
So one of the versions will be the specs that we had after the fire department did the review and the PUD did the review of the load, right?
Well, we got, yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay.
And then they did two versions of it, but the answer is yes. We had looked at the version that did everything, and that's the one that we brought to you all. But there was a valid question that was asked, and so we're gonna do kind of both versions.
Okay. So, so the way the timing of the newspaper and everything works out, we'll have a advertisement for bids out on Tuesday. And we should have bids by the 13th. I'm out for a few days until the 12th, and then when I get back on the 13th, that'll be 15 days after the bid notice. And so we will have bids for the last council meeting in October.
Thank you.
And it'll be a dual alternate bid setup.
Any other questions? Okay.
No, I would just go with more what they said from MRSC, just so that's in the record as well, is that basically interim final rule gave recipients broad latitude to use the funds for the provision of government service to the extent of reduction in revenue. And government services can include, but are not limited to, maintenance of infrastructure or pay-go spending for building new infrastructure through cybersecurity, hardware, software, critical infrastructure, health services, school or educational services, and the provision of police, fire, and other public safety services. So that's where we're hanging our hat.
Thank you. All right, any further questions about the ARP update / fire department generator?
And we had a motion in a second.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if there's no further questions, then we will vote on the motion.
The motion was to go to bid.
And for it to be not to exceed $150,000. Does anyone have anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we are now at the body camera, car camera contract. This is for action. The contract is here, and Chief, I will let you, before the chief starts, I would ask that this not necessarily be allocated as to funding just yet, so that we can go through some of the discussions about ARP money and et cetera.
So, Mayor and Council, I was called up earlier for the Finance Committee, and I guess I'm going to defer to the Finance Committee. You know, we had a discussion on it. I don't think there's a doubt that anybody would love to be able to save $9,000 if we had the ability to do so. But that is why we finance things, and there is an interest to things. And so I think at this point it would be in the best interest to finance the project. We do have we did get $16,000 this year for the mandates, and so for this year's budget, which we did not budget whatsoever for, really we're going to be looking for about $3,000, $3,700. So that would be my thing, and I believe that's along the lines of the Finance Committee, and I'll give that to them.
That's reflective of our conversation, and I think the Finance Committee agreed with that as well.
So, first, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
There is a motion and a second to allow or to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Huntington Technology Finance to purchase the body, or to enter into a contract for the body and car cameras as identified in the contract. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so the Finance Committee basically went through all of the options and had a discussion about it. We did receive $16,000 from the state legislature due to the mandates. We are hopeful and crossing our fingers that in the coming years we'll have the $16,000 plus, maybe more. I believe that we have some people on our council that can have some sturdy discussions with our legislatures that would hopefully help us in that direction. Looking down this side of the table. But yeah, the Finance Committee would recommend the 60 months, $19,928 a year.
So we would be financing some of this?
We'd finance the entire thing.
Yes, and the question that I went out to get was, last meeting, was if we finance it for the 60 months or the 5 years, is there a early payoff penalty? There is no early payoff penalty, but it doesn't save us anything either. If we pay it off in year 2, we're still paying the full finance charge. So I guess that would be their penalty, right? That's what they, so, but that is the answer is there is no penalty to pay it off early, but we don't save anything by paying it off in year 2, 3, or 4.
So in our discussions, the fact that we have money from the legislature to cover the majority of this year's expenses weighed into the decision. We also are hopeful that because there has been a lot of pushback on unfunded mandates, we might be able to acquire some more state funding. But over the course of the next 5 years, we think that this can be absorbed into the police budget as part of the normal budgetary process. And just because we have these ARP funds available, we don't want to get in a rush to spend them outside the normal course of our operations. So I'm supportive of this option as well.
And by having the payments hanging out there, we can take that message to the legislature.
Correct.
Also that we have these payments because of their legislation. I think there's some wisdom in that.
Anyone have any further questions of the chief?
I got one question. The reference word lease shows up a lot in these documents. Is it?
The reference word what?
Lease.
It is a lease.
It is.
So what it is it's a, we say finance, I say finance, and I apologize for misspeaking. It is a lease. It's basically a 5-year lease to own. At the end of 5 years, we own it.
All right.
So
Well,
yes,
we pay
it's
a buck.
play on words, but yeah.
All right. That's why you're paying all the interest.
Yes.
That's why.
So any further discussion? Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And just a note, our other mandate, we have started building our interview room, to let everybody know. And so they actually came in today and built it and sheetrocked it. And so in the next couple of days, they'll hopefully have it mudded, and we're working towards that. So just to give you an update on that. But thank you very much.
Do you need volunteers for mock interviews?
No.
Okay. I was going to volunteer.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda, we're moving on to new business. The first is repayment of overdue bills. As you know, by October 1st, we need to have, well, you may not know, by October 1st, we need to have a plan in place for repayment of water bills that are due to the city. Councilman Trimble it's been about a month and a half for Councilman Trimble. He has, we had a basic idea of what we wanted to do at the beginning of summer when we thought that we would have to make that decision by July. When the moratorium continued till the end of September, it gave us some more time. Councilman Trimble then went to and found and created this form, merged a couple forms, and I think so. What our plan is for all of you to know is that I put it in the newsletter that people have to contact the clerks. They'll fill out this form, and then they will have, I believe, 6 months to repay their amount of funds owed. as the terms are identified. Councilman Trimble can report as to the issue of interest and as to anything further.
Yeah, so it is a maximum of 12 months. You can kind of go anywhere in between the 12 months. It's going to be a little bit of a tracking nightmare. However, Ms. Lilligard and I have kind of worked hand in hand in this, I would say. Yes, we did take a few different sheets and put them into one. And as to financing for this, because of the moratorium, we could not charge late fees or finance fees to begin with. So going backwards into those fees and charging interest onto those fees or late fees would go against the moratorium and would not be correct. So as you can see, this is the form. There could be a couple editorial changes, like a due date might be not incorrect, but these will not go out with the bills. This will be a separate sheet of paper that the account owner will have to make sure that they're up with it. Obviously, the terms and conditions are in there. There will be a December 31st deadline. So after December 31st, there'll be no more flexible payment plans. So there's some incentive to get this done. So
Is December 31st the end of the moratorium?
the moratorium ends September 30th.
So we're going to allow anybody to negotiate a payment plan for the next 3 months.
Once that moratorium comes off, does this create a gift of public funds issue for us?
You know, because we are into the COVID-19 moratorium rules per the state auditor's office.
Because we did it before October
Correct.
1. Got it.
Thank you. So just to recap, so all of you know what we're doing, because part of this is sharing the message as far as you can, is number one, effective October 1st, people's water can be shut off if they don't pay their bill. And in order to not have their water shut off for overdue bills, one, they need to pay their current bill, and two, if they have a back payment due, they need to enter into the emergency flexible payment plan that the city has. They have an opportunity for the next 90 days from October 1st to the end of December to enter into that plan with the city. This is an interest-free, quote-unquote, plan. So as long as they pay their amount, whatever is due each month, then this is as good a deal as they're going to get from anybody.
Will they have to keep up with their current bill while
Yes.
doing that?
Yeah.
And so what happens if they don't?
It's what happens every time when they didn't before COVID, which is that we shut off their water.
So at the end of 12 months, if they're not caught up on this, then we can start charging them interest after 12 months, if somehow this balance is still.
This agreement, if they're in compliance with the agreement, they will be complete by the end of 12 months.
So if they
12 months is the
violate,
maximum that this payment process allows.
so if they violate their agreement, then they would have their water shut off.
Sooner than the 12 months.
Right. Right. So just not to hide, I mean, I don't think this is a surprise for anybody, but if you don't pay your water bill, you get a warning, and then you can pay the water bill or it's shut off in 3 days.
Get a warning on Tuesday that so much is due by Thursday at 9 o'clock, and if it's not done on Thursday at 9 o'clock, then your water's shut off.
Has everybody heard that? Okay.
So I think it's important to note, I think everybody's trying to be as flexible and help people get caught up rather than to get to the point of talking about turning off service.
Yeah.
But
So I'll put this in the newsletter for the next, I've already put it in for September, but I didn't have all the details, so I will kind of hammer on the fact that December 31st is your last date. And it would only be through whatever is owed through the month of September of 2021. So it would not, this plan is not if you're late on your bill in October, or thereafter. So it's only for the period of time that the moratorium was in effect.
Correct.
Okay?
And it's also that there's plenty of opportunities out there to get funding if you were in need of funding. There's multiple spots for that right now, so.
And they should, I mean, and that's the other thing you should share with anybody that has any questions is please contact CAP. They are the kind of the tunnel, not the tunnel, the nexus of where to get funding if you need access, actually not only for utilities, but also for rent. And so they've reached out to us, and so just have people reach out directly to them. So there is no motion necessary for this. This is just really a sharing piece for all of you so that you know what we're doing.
Shouldn't we authorize the policy of allowing a payment plan?
I don't.
Do we currently allow?
I think we're forced to do this, aren't we?
I don't
We
think
have-
it hurts to get the council's
All right,
approval.
I don't
though,
really
so
care. I mean, it's up to
I
you.
would move adoption of this policy and implementation.
That's true. I heard a motion and a second from Councilman Wood. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, Councilman Trimble. And all of you for voting for it, thank you. Next is Technology Funds Request ARP. This is for intro. Over the course of the budget, you guys are going to be talking about ARP monies, obviously. This was raised initially, I think, in March. Councilman Wood asked for specific broadcast information, but then Councilman Trimble asked for how far are we behind on technology. And so over the course of the month of May, Sean, our IT guru, had put together a variety of things across the city that we were lacking and that we were deficient in and not, I guess, up to where we should be. In addition to that, I didn't add this because we just discovered this. Well, I guess I didn't discover this today, but the phone system that we had, the speakerphone system, is around $600. I'm sorry, $400. The one that we had when we changed our phone companies, in which we saved a tremendous amount of money changing, was taken back by the first phone company. So we're going to have, I've authorized the $400, but that I think is part of this package. And the reason I say that, this would and should qualify for ARP monies under a specific bucket. You guys need to make a determination, I suppose, as to which options you want. And I would like to have a determination by next meeting so that I can send it out for bid. And so please take a look at this over the next couple weeks. Contact me with any questions you might have, and I will try to get an answer for you, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to ask Sean about what that means. Does anyone have any questions right now about this for me? Okay, moving on. Council mayor roles. So at our last meeting, it was quite a lot of conversation. And I just want to start out by saying that any council member, and I'm sure you know this, but if you don't know this, any council member has every right to ask questions and to seek out information. However, what the piece of it that gets kind of lost in this is that not individual council member, the only individual council members do not have the authority to act on behalf of the city without a vote of the council indicating that they have imbued that council member with that authority, or the mayor has obviously the authority to act in certain areas on behalf of the city. And so I kind of work with the rule of no surprises. I try to do that with the department heads, and I do that obviously with all of you as much as I can, so that there's no drama, there's no conflict, because if you know what I'm doing, then you can talk to me about it beforehand, or you can talk about it, if you have any questions, you can follow up on it. And I think that that's pretty important, because then I try to do that obviously with all of you, but with the public and as well as our stakeholders. And that's kind of the basis of that, is communication and transparency. And I know you expect it out of me, because I would hope you would expect it out of me, but I also, this is just kind of a reminder that it'd be awfully nice if I can expect that out of you. Because then we don't have people taken by surprise and confrontations that don't need to occur. And so, because, I mean, this is Montesano, we don't really function on a DC politic level. We try to hopefully have conversations and solve problems and get things done. And so, and there is a price if we don't do that. There's a lot more suspicion. There's distrust. It's not what I would hope we do to function as an entity. Obviously, all of you are the policymakers. And obviously I'm the executive. If we work well together, if we are communicating well with each other, then we get more done. And that's what I would hope. So I just wanted to give us an opportunity to talk about last meeting because I think it was fraught. And I tend not to want to ignore things when they come up that were negative because I think that that's not healthy for all of us. And so does anybody else want to add in anything in here? Okay.
I will just add that I left the last meeting feeling like we had a consensus that communication is key. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of that in what you just said, and I think we just need to remind ourselves that we're all pulling in the same direction, and things get done that way.
I think that's fair. Anything else? I was going to say, one of the side notes was that, so I didn't know when I was reading Mr. Booze's letter who had contacted the Fire District 2 at all. And so my first thought is obviously paranoia. Who on behalf of the city has contacted? And I assume that the only person who had the authority to do that, except for me, is one of the department heads. So all night long, and this is funny now because I had time to process, but it was not funny that night. The only person who has my authority to contact anything regarding law enforcement or fire would be the chief over there. And so for that entire evening of 3 hours of sleep, my issue was, how am I going to discipline him if he overstepped by doing something I specifically said I was not in favor of. And so, and I've talked to him about this because we both had a nice chuckle after the fact, but it was painful. And it created a lot of very uneasy feeling for me. And I found out later he also slept 3 hours because he was freaked out. And the next day somebody from Fire District 2 reached out to him, adding to his anxiety, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it's anxiety. But so communication can solve a lot of these problems. Transparency can solve a lot of these problems, and I appreciate all of you working hard and trying to solve things. But remember, you're part of the cog. We're all part of one wheel, and so let's just try to do better. So anyway, I have a meeting with the volunteers and the union on the 11th to talk over the issues of structure, and I'll report back. And we don't forget, we have a workshop at 6 on the next day. It's not even a workshop, it's probably a town hall. And I put that in the newsletter, so hopefully people will show up, and otherwise we can talk about things. Anything further about this? Okay, so with that, Mr. Coker, did you have anything?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, so the last thing on our agenda for new business is event coordinator. This is for intro. I'm probably going to ask you for action at the next meeting because I know that it had to go to the chamber this week. I'm not sure what the end result was. The chamber, the chamber president and I, Kayla Ballou, had an idea as we went through the morning market Saturday morning market, that it would be awfully nice if we had somebody else coordinating all these things and telling us what things are coordinated, and when we had like a touch person that we could just refer everybody to. And so our idea was to share the cost of that person, and she did some research and asked around to see what the average cost would be. She is looking into a contract for $6,000 per year to hire somebody for that position. It would be through the chamber, and she's asking the city for half of that, which would be $3,000. I don't know if she wants to start right away or if it's next year. I thought that it was for next year's budget, and I was going to introduce it in the budget. But I think it might be for this year. So I'll bring it back one way or the other as to action, but I just think it's a fantastic idea. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this?
This is hotel motel?
It'll probably end up being hotel motel.
Could you clarify the next year versus this year part?
So I don't know if she wants that person to start November 1st. And so we would be November 1st to November 1st, or whether or not we can hold off till January. Because we have Festival of Lights, and so she may want to have them start earlier. Then what I'll probably do is suggest to you guys to do a supplemental budget to just pay for those 2 months, and then have a specific allocation for next year. I know I can see finance not overly thrilled with my supplemental budget ideas, but anyway. And I don't actually think I may not need to have a supplemental budget, but I don't know. We'll figure that piece out as soon as the chamber tells me whether or not what their needs are. Okay. Anybody have any concerns about this? Because once we institute this, it's probably something we'll be paying for every year. Okay.
I like the idea of supporting our chamber to have our events be successful, meaningful. I think the better we can make them, the more they will be self-supporting. So I don't think it's unreasonable.
If it promotes tourism, that's what it's for. I mean, so.
Yeah. And on that note, let me know if you have any questions. If you get an answer, Councilman Wood is on the chamber board. If you get an answer earlier, if you want to email me, that'd be awesome. Okay. We are at public comment again. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment at this time?
I just want to know the date of your town hall meeting.
I think it's October 12th at 6 p.m. It's our first meeting.
6 p.m.?
Okay, we are council comments. Councilman Carroll, do you want to start?
I have nothing in particular, but a thank you for the work that was put into the ARP fund clarifications. That's fabulous work. Thank you.
I wanted to second that. I wanted to recognize Councilman Trimble for all of his work in trying to find the funds for the generator. I can't imagine how much time and energy and effort that you put into that, so thank you.
Councilman Trimble?
Well, I've lost a little bit more hair than I had before, and that wasn't a lot. So, I appreciate the mayor. I appreciate AWC, Jacob Ewing from AWC, and Eric Lowell from MRSC. Those two guys have been responsive, have answered every silly question that I've had for them, no matter how small it is or how big it is. So, shout out to those guys. Shout out to all of our employees for still being here, still working hard, and putting all their effort in. And if you've gotten to drive over Spruce yet, make sure you go drive over Spruce. Although Mike probably wouldn't like us to go drive over it, but it's open. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Oh, yeah, I have to echo that. Thank you for doing that legwork, Councilman Trimble. I think it helped us get to a good place in our decision-making process. And thanks for the rest of the council for pushing us to get there tonight. I think we've explored this issue, and I feel good about where we're at on that. So, I will echo thanks to the city employees. I know they put in a lot of work this summer, with our sidewalks and street projects and everything, and things are looking good. So, appreciate it.
Councilman?
I just want to thank everyone. That's it.
Thanks for everyone for.
Councilman Wood?
That's it. Yeah, you're welcome.
Councilman Wood?
I want to thank everybody for moving forward on the generator. I think that policy is also good on the repayment plan, and I say this only in jest, but I got to say it, it's good to see Finance Committee have to get into details like Public Works.
All right, well, this is a thankfulness round robin. I just want to thank the clerks. I echo everybody else's thanks, especially to Councilman Trimble, because I personally do know every minute of misery those emails were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the clerks have been performing with they're just figuring it all out as they go along, and I also am aware that each one of those repayment plans will have to be hand calculated and dealt with every single time, and that just takes work, and I appreciate the effort that goes into that, and because it does help a lot of people, and so it's a good thing. And so kudos around. It was a good day. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there any minutes? I'm sorry, is there anybody that has any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Chris.
Public
All right, good night.
Week
Nice.
Wednesday the 6th, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Kim, I did send you an email. It'll be ready for you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye, good night.
I'll see you guys at 8. I know you're going by now.
No, you're totally fine. This morning on the